Today's Mercedes-Benz interview of the day brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Luxury SUVs now come with a luxury of choice. Learn more about the E-Class SUVs at your local dealer or MBUSA.com/special offers. I've mentioned a few times that I did play Pinehurst number 2. It was one of the longest days, worst days of my life. But that's a tribute to this course because it's very difficult, very difficult. And even the pros, like there's going to be guys that are probably going to be walking off the course today going, what the hell just happened here? Or what was that? And then you got 3 more days there. Rich Lerner is covering. He just got off the air. He was doing play-by-play for USA Network, also Golf Channel anchor, reporter, commentator. It can be a slog there, as I felt when I played Pinehurst number 2. How would you describe the course to somebody who hadn't played?
Well, nice to be with you, Dan. And I don't mean to suggest that Pinehurst is Mickey Mouse in any way. And I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, at a driving range owned by my dad. We also had a miniature golf. But you can very easily, and Tiger himself said this, you can play putting ping pong here. You can get going where you are just off the green. They call them the surrounds, and you'll hear the phrase runoffs this week. And let's say you pull your putter out like we all do. You're on the fringe, and maybe you have 3 or 4 feet of fringe, and all told, it's maybe a 20-foot shot. You hit that putt, and it doesn't quite get to the crest. And in what is, in my estimation, the most depressing, Dan, you and I would have experienced this many times. It is the most depressing single shot in golf, even more so than a water ball. It's the one that comes back to your feet. And it takes a long time to get there, and you know it's coming back, and you're just thoroughly melancholy at that point. I gave a buddy of mine last night as a long shot, relative long shot. He's top 20 in the world. Sahith Theegala, and just to show you how you can be embarrassed here, Theegala is 7 over through 6. This is the kind of place that can make you look silly in a hurry, and you could hit it. The phrase pros will use is dead nuts, meaning they hit it flush in the face and you can still make double or triple. Because if you're off here by a yard, I'm talking middle of the face, but you're a yard left of where you really need to be. You hit the green, but a yard left of the spot, that thing runs off, and who knows from there. So the greens are really diabolical here.
Yeah, and the facility, I don't want people to misconstrue this. Pinehurst is wonderful. Bandon Dunes, Pebble Beach, and Pinehurst, if you want like a weekend with the guys. I mean, it's wonderful, wonderful facility there. It's just Pinehurst number 2 roughed me up and made me, I think, reconsider if I wanted to play golf on a weekend anymore.
You spend, if you're not playing well at Pinehurst number 2, you're crooked off the tee. You're spending most of the day in what they call these native areas with the wire grass, and you're just traipsing, and you're dusty, and you're dirty, and you're chopping and chunking and hacking, and then you get up to the green, and you're 3-putt, you're 4-putt. We did a little bit on the show this morning. Aaron Oberholzer, who finished 9th here at the U.S. Open in 2005, said, "You take your average club champion wherever you might play, would be a good player, probably, say a 2 or 3 handicap." He said on this setup, that club champ wouldn't break 90.
Okay, that leads me to, who does this course favor?
Well, Koepka's 2 under, tied for the lead. Think about a guy like Koepka, somebody built to slug it out with a golf course. It favors somebody with a good short game, somebody with patience. Who understands that, a bogey's not a bad score where it might be any other week. I give you Koepka is good. Morikawa is good because he's precise with his iron play and his short game has improved. Yeah, I mean, look, this is an old school U.S. Open. In the 3 previous U.S. Opens they had at Pinehurst, total of 4 guys broke par. So you have to be able to compete, not complain, keep your head in the game. You might make 3 consecutive bogeys, and you need to bear down on a 5-footer for par on that fourth hole. So somebody with the kind of the right constitution, and I'm thinking of the usual suspects: Koepka, Morikawa, and then obviously Scotty Scheffler. Scheffler's far and away the best player in the game right now.
But are we getting into Tiger's neighborhood of Scheffler versus the field, or are we already there?
We're getting close. I will say this: there will be some justifiable comparisons to Tiger with Scotty Scheffler in terms of how much he separated himself from his peers. You go look at the world ranking; it is the greatest margin between 1 and 2 since Tiger Woods. I just want to point out that Scotty turns 28 next week. A week before his 28th birthday, Tiger had won 38 times with 8 major championships. I think that I might have it off by 1 or 2. 38 and 8, somewhere in that neighborhood. Scotty Scheffler's at 11 wins, 2 majors. There's no comparison to Tiger, but Scheffler's dominating this current crop, and he just has more at his disposal, Dan, than anybody else. He has control of his irons. He's better mentally. He has a Tiger-like short game, so that if he misses a green, he has the ability to get it up and down. He's more committed. He has more clarity, and he has more control. The 3 C's.
Talking to Rich Lerner, Golf Channel anchor, joining us from Pinehurst. And watching Tiger today, he looked okay. I know Tiger is never going to say that he can't win, because I think before he started his round, he goes, I got it. He always has a chance in his mind because that he's Tiger. But realistically, what are we looking at with Tiger from here on out?
Would be a victory if he made the cut. I know, to your point, he still thinks he can win. I don't think he has enough reps. This is his 4th round of the 4th tournament of the year. He withdrew from Riviera. He made the cut at the Masters, didn't play great, and he missed the cut at Valhalla at the PGA Championship. This is his first U.S. Open since 2020. He just doesn't play enough. I don't think you can pop up, giving up 20 plus years to these best players in this current generation and expect to compete. I will say this: with the all-time greats in any sport, you always think, do they have one more in them? I wonder, though, if Tiger's one more was the 2019 Masters when he was 43.
Yeah.
When he won that Masters, he was playing very good golf. He had won the Tour Championship. You remember the crowds coming in behind him at East Lake, the Pied Piper. He'd won the Tour Championship late the previous year in 2018. He had some good finishes in the run-up to that Masters, and he was 43. This is a 48-year-old guy who drags his legs around like, Earl Campbell, the great running back for Texas Longhorns, Houston Oilers, after 10,000 carries. The Tiger of 2000, that's just a long time and a lot of surgeries ago. But it's still a thrill to watch him. He's still, I think, the best to have ever done it. Or I would say this, for a period of 10 years, nobody played the game better ever in the history of the sport. There's a case to be made that Nicklaus is the greatest champion. Nicklaus is not a case. Nicklaus is the greatest major champion of all time. The numbers tell us that. 18 to 15. Tiger has 15. And Tiger himself always said from the time he was a kid, the ones that matter are the major championships. He had that number on his bedroom wall as a boy, 18. And what does that tell you? How you take care of your mind, body, and spirit over the long haul matters. And Nicklaus, fair to say, did a better job of that. But, in terms of dominance and win percentage, which is another way to measure greatness in any sport, the gap between number one in the world and everybody else was never wider than it was when Tiger was in his prime, in his heyday. That 15-shot win at the U.S. Open in 2000, I think, is the greatest performance in the history of the game. Tiger was standing on the shores of the Monterey Peninsula, and everybody else was in a rowboat somewhere near Australia. It was not close. He won tournaments by 8, by 11, by 15. He won 6 in a row. He had 10 seasons of 5 or more wins. He made the ridiculous routine. He made clutch a habit. You brush your teeth before bed. He made 15-footers that matter. I don't think we will forget, but as you watch Tiger kind of battle and struggle with his body and against Father Time, it's nice to remember who he was and what he did. Yeah, he's the most, the way I put it, Dan, he was the most reliably mind-blowing performer I've ever seen, and I might say in any sport.
Who has a bigger shadow over their sport, Michael Jordan with the NBA or Tiger with the PGA Tour?
It's comparable. Golf has never quite been able to capture the energy, the excitement, and I don't know how you could, that Tiger generated in terms of ratings, bringing people from beyond golf to the television set. And I haven't done a deep dive into the numbers. I suspect the NBA has done comparable or greater numbers even than they did when Jordan was playing, though I can't be sure. I mean, we've had Steph Curry and LeBron James would be, guys who were not quite at Jordan's level. LeBron close. I'm a huge Steph fan. I think he's underrated historically. But yeah, if they're in Michael's zip code, is that fair to say, Dan? Would you say LeBron and Steph would at least be in the neighborhood? They're not at the top of the hill where Jordan's living, but they're in that neighborhood. There's nobody in Tiger's neighborhood in golf since he's played. Mickelson was a star. I don't honestly think we've had that star. So Jordan was going to be the star, and it sort of petered out. Maybe he has something left, but I don't know. He's 30 now. It gets away quickly. And that's really it. Rory had a chance 10 years ago. Nicklaus said he thought he might win 15 majors. He had won 2 in a row in 14. He hasn't won one since. And again, we're talking about levels of greatness, Dan.
Yeah.
Rory, while we're on that subject, Rory is undeniably a great player. He sails into the Hall of Fame. He's got 24 wins, 4 majors. But at this point, we are talking about levels of greatness. And Rory hasn't quite gone to that level we thought he might. And he still could. He's only 35. But that level would be, say, the career Grand Slam, which we talk about when he goes to the Masters. He needs to win the Masters to become one of 6 to have won all 4 of the majors, the 4 different majors. And, it's Tiger and it's Hogan and it's Sarazen Player and Nicklaus. That would take him to a sort of a Rushmore-esque level. But Rory, again, he's great, but is he a legend? Legends rattle cages on Sundays. Rory, at least when he's had the chance in the last 5 years, has not rattled cages. He had a chance at the U.S. Open last year on Sundays and against Wyndham Clark, a guy with really no major championship track record, and he couldn't rattle his cage. British Open 2 years ago at St. Andrews with Cam Smith on a gettable golf course. Smith went out and shot 64, and Rory could only muster a 70. Didn't rattle cages. If you're gonna be a real legend of the game, you have to do something heroic on Sundays at the majors. Maybe he'll do it again, but it's been a long time. So the answer is no. Nobody. We're not. I think Tiger's shadow's been bigger than Jordan's.
Great to talk to you. Great appearance. Have fun there. And thanks for joining us.
By the way, last thing, Dan, I just want to share this with you. You'll appreciate this. Coming of age as you did in the 70s, as I did. I went to golf camp here at Pinehurst in 1974 when I was just being introduced to the game. That was the era when specialized sports camps were coming, to the fore, and specialized camps in general. The following year, my parents sent me to a reading camp, much to the chagrin of my baseball coach, who felt strongly that hitting fastballs was way more important than speed reading Dostoevsky. And I agreed with him. I was livid with my parents that they sent me to reading camp. It's embarrassing. And can you imagine that?
Reading
There's
camp.
basketball camp,
Yeah.
baseball camp, right? Reading camp? The hell is that?
Well, you became a wordsmith, though, Rich.
Thank you, Dan.
Great to talk to you. Thank you, bud.
Good talking to you. See you.
That's Rich Lerner, Golf Channel.